Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War Episode 4 and 5 aired in Japanese on November 1st and November 8th, 2022. In these episodes, the Seireitei is suddenly and violently attacked by a large group of powerful invaders. The Soul Society is quickly turned to rubble, with bodies laying everywhere, and with their Bankai stolen, can even the most powerful captains stand up to these attackers? In addition to all of that, we also briefly glimpse into the past of head captain Yamamoto. So in today's video, I'll be going over my first thoughts on episode 4 and 5 of Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War.
Stars and Stripes!
Hello and welcome to another Carrot Scraps video, and by another, I mean the 123rd. Now, as usual in these first thoughts videos, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer before we get into things. And the most important disclaimer is to remind you that this is not a scripted review. This is exactly what the title suggests, it's just my first thoughts on these episodes after watching them. Like most of these Bleach first thoughts videos, I watch the episode, write down some notes, and then I record my thoughts. So I just want you to keep that in mind in case I get any details wrong, or in case I change my opinions in the future, which is totally possible since this is still so new. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that in the video, you'll be watching footage from Bleach Brave Souls, because typically when I review TV shows or movies, I tend to not want to use footage from the actual subject, because of the way that YouTube tends to react to those kind of reviews. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get into my thoughts on episode 4 and 5. Okay, so unfortunately, I have good news and I have bad news about the episodes that I'm going to talk about today. Today I'll be talking about episode 4 and 5 of Bleach: The Thousand Year Blood War anime, and while I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes of the anime so far, episode 4 kind of breaks that trend, and I really wasn't a big fan of it. Now, I didn't hate it. Again, it's Bleach, so at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy most of Bleach, but everything I praised in the first 3 episodes, you know, again, going over how I wasn't a big fan, or I'm not currently a big fan of this arc from the manga, one of the big reasons being pacing, and then praising the pacing adjustments in the first 3 episodes, that is kind of lost in episode 4 of the anime, unfortunately. But the good news is that I really loved episode 5. So 4 is the low point for me right now, and I don't know if 5 is the high point, but I thought it was a fantastic episode, a very focused episode. These, of course, are episodes, again, episode 4, which is called Kill the Shadow, and then episode 5, which is called Wrath as Lightning. I had a lot of fun watching these 2 episodes, but I wanted to get that out of the way first. Unfortunately, I wasn't a big fan of 4. But 4 also starts with a recap, which I thought was really interesting, especially since we kind of talked about not recapping the previous series. First of all, I'm curious how often we're going to get these recap moments. It recapped the first 3 episodes, so is it going to be a 3-episode basis, or is it going to be a, you know, per story basis? I'm curious to see how that works. And that also brings me to another point about the anime, is that I love all of the choices that make it similar to the manga, and the recap episode, or the recap title card, looks very similar to, you know, the opening and like text at the beginning of a Bleach manga, and I always love those little details. I always think stuff like that is really cool. But anyway, yeah, so to talk about episode 4, I thought it was very rushed. And it's possible that the reason it feels rushed is because it's meant to feel like this sudden attack. You know, you're not expecting it. I can totally see that, and who knows, you know, in the future maybe I'll agree with that more. But I just don't think it felt that way. I think it felt very quick and very... It just felt hard to keep up with at times, especially, again, I'm familiar with all these characters, I'm familiar with this story and these plot points, but there were a lot of characters that felt very like, oh, they're not going to get a big introduction, they're just here. Okay, that's fine. But then you're introducing old and new characters, you know, depending on who's watching this, very fast, and there's a lot to establish, and it just, I don't know, it just felt very quick. It felt very rushed, in my opinion. Now, even with my thoughts on the pacing aside, I do really like the attack scenes. I think they did a really good job of showing the attack. I liked all of the gore, honestly. It's really weird how much gore there is not weird, but like it's surprising to me how much gore there is in this version of the story versus the original manga and also the original anime. I think depending on when you watch the original anime, it was more or less violent than the manga. So to see so much gore and so many Soul Reapers killed and so much blood around them, I thought really made an impact. First of all, it's just unique and interesting, but also it really sends the message home that like this is a tragedy. Like I can't believe that this is happening right now. And I mentioned the long shots. I liked the extreme long shots of the Serete and a lot of the shots here. I'm watching Vinland Saga right now, and one of my favorite things is seeing just the environmental shots. And Bleach kind of has the same thing going for it right now. I love a lot of the characterless, establishing shots. I think a lot of them look really beautiful or haunting or just fascinating. It's really striking to watch the invasion happen. But once the characters start getting introduced, that's where I have kind of my biggest problem, with the episode, which is that it just feels like we don't get enough time with anybody. From the first kind of introduction of a captain fighting a Stern Ritter, it just feels a little quick for me. But all that being said, one of the best things about this story from the manga is the character Asnot, I believe his name is. Again, excuse me if I'm getting that name wrong. Excuse me if I get any of these names wrong. First of all, like a lot of them are Japanese and then like German translations through Japanese and then English. But then on top of that, like I have a reading disability, and then also I've never really said these names out loud because I love Bleach, but I don't get to talk about Bleach with many people. So excuse me if I get these names wrong. But anyway, Asnot, this Stern Ritter who is, controlling fear, he had a great introduction. I think he visually looked fantastic, and I thought he was very imposing. And I thought he looked really cool in the episode. Of course, the next episode, I feel like he has a little bit more to do, but I did like him here as well. This episode really focuses on the stealing of bankais, and again, I just feel like they could have done a lot more to introduce this idea. Like in the manga, it feels very rushed that they know that they can steal bankais, and it would have been cool. Maybe if this episode was split into two. I know maybe that would have felt like padding to some, but this is a dramatic moment. I would have appreciated more build up for this attack, and finding out, these captains finding out that they need to be careful with their bankai, and then finding out that they're actually being stolen, not sealed. It just felt very sudden, a lot of this information. It felt very, very quick. There wasn't a lot of breathing time, and the breathing time in episode 5 and 1 through 3 is something that I really appreciate them for. So it was disappointing, but I also, still enjoyed the episode. On a minor note, I don't know what this character's name is, but he's a character at the start of this episode who appeared at the end of the last episode who looks like a mix between Aizen and Sairo Porograns. He got kind of a redesign in the anime. They gave him some more earrings and some more necklaces, and I thought that was really cool. So I like the new redesign. It's such a weird, like, slight change from the manga, but I definitely like it. I think he's a cooler character because of it. Something kind of unrelated to the episode is that I watched the original Bleach anime in Japanese growing up. I watched it a couple times growing up, right, as it was coming out, and I watched it in Japanese, and it, voice acted in Japanese. But over the years, through rewatching it, mostly as an adult, I've watched it in English with the English cast. I like that cast a lot. Maybe not every voice is my favorite. In fact, some translations are poorly done and straight up mistaken. But there are a lot of voices that I really love and a lot of performances that I really appreciate. So I like the English dub of Bleach. But that being said, I haven't watched the Japanese dub in a very long time. And so watching this anime and hearing a lot of the same voice actors return to these characters is honestly pretty nostalgic for me. It's kind of interesting how familiar some of these voices are, and getting to hear these actors come back to these characters. I don't know. It really it hit me. It was a big hit of nostalgia, and I really loved that. And a lot of that came from Byakuya and Renji in this episode. So that was something that was really appealing to me. Something else about this episode that I really liked, that is again gonna sound weird, but it's a detail that I love, is in the manga, the Zanpakuto, the katanas, have this black steel on the back of them and then a silver as the blade, right? But in the original anime, for some reason, most, not all, but most of the katanas were made completely silver with no black back. I'm not sure why that was done. It's possible that that's just more realistic, I guess, to real katanas, but it's something that I always disliked because I loved the way the katana looked in the manga a lot, you know? And something that is great about this adaptation of the manga is that they've returned, at least for the most part, to my knowledge, they've returned the black steel on the back of each katana, which I really, really loved. I was so excited when I saw it at the start of the episode, and then when I saw it with other people's swords later on, you know, including Hitsugaya's, I was really excited that that little detail is still intact. And to finish out my thoughts on episode 4, there are a lot of moments in this episode that I don't think are animated super well. Specifically when the bankais are being stolen, there were just some weird moments that I don't think looked the best. But that being said, there were also a lot of moments that looked fantastic. I loved a lot of the animation, especially like Soifon's opponent. There's a little moment between her, just a brief fight, you know, moment that looks gorgeous. And I think there are a lot of really cool moments in this episode and in the anime so far, a lot of really well animated moments. I lied. One more thing is that I was very excited to see Matsumoto again. You know, I wasn't the biggest Matsumoto fan growing up. She wasn't like a big character for me. But through rewatching the show and I don't know, getting older, she's become one of my favorite characters. And she didn't do a whole lot, but I was still really, really stoked to see Matsumoto, and I'm excited to see more of her, and I hope she gets more scenes, honestly. But if I was going to say anything about episode 4, it's that maybe split it into 2 episodes, and I think it would have benefited a lot from the additional, I don't want to call it filler, but the additions from the anime that episodes 1 through 3 had, like with Uryu, for example. I would have loved to have seen those additions to this story and these plot points. Again, another example, like the establishment that the captains know about the sealing of the bankai and the reveal that it's actually being stolen. I wish there was a little bit more time put into that, and that there was a little bit more build-up for the audience and for the captains to be worried about that and to be concerned about that outcome, so that way when the reveal comes that it's actually being stolen, it means a little bit more. And I do want to talk more about that, but I realize that some people are watching this story for the first time and watching these reviews, you know, with, you know, not being spoiled, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Now, when it comes to episode 5, I'm very happy to say that it's the complete opposite of my feelings on episode 4. I think episode 5 was fantastic. I thought it was very self-contained. I thought it told a pretty consistent story, you know, that being of Yamamoto, you know, head captain Yamamoto and his history with these characters, and with, you know, his lieutenant, but also the story of Byakuya fighting the Sternritter Asnot. It's kind of a 50-50, I suppose, and I think both stories are done fantastic. You know, me and my wife have been watching Bleach for a while. We're nowhere near caught. I don't want to say nowhere near caught up. We're not caught up yet, but I wanted to show them this first fight with Asnot and Byakuya because it's just so cool. You know, we're big horror fans, and I just think I've always loved this character from the manga. It's one of the best parts of this arc, in my opinion. They are one of the biggest, one of my favorite parts of this arc, in my opinion. And seeing them adapted here so well was fantastic. You know, one of the best parts was that Rukia reveal where she turns around and she just falls apart. They did such a good job. It looked so weird and disturbing. It's kind of a hard moment to hit. It works so well in sequential storytelling, in panel storytelling in the manga. It's kind of a hard moment to fully realize in the anime, and I think they did an amazing job. There's a scene with flies that is, you know, a little on the fence, right? Like, uh-oh, like we're working CG into the show. That's always going to be make me nervous personally, and I thought they did a really great job. I thought it looked really creepy. I thought it looked really cool. And again, Asnot looked really, really cool. Very emotional moment, with Byakuya. Although I think they could have laid on a little bit more. Although we're probably not done with that moment, but very much so a fantastic episode. That first half of the episode of Byakuya fighting for his life, and Renji, on the sidelines, and As not just being a creep. All of that perfect. Like really, really well done. This is the kind of stuff that these first 3 episodes and then this opening really do make me excited to rewatch this again, excited to watch it in English, excited to watch it in Japanese, excited to watch the original anime and then watch this. That's the stuff that really, really worked for me. And I'm curious what the fate of Byakuya will be in the anime. I don't want to spoil anything for people who are new to this. Another thing is that Rukia gets defeated, and I don't think they reveal the Sternritter who defeated her in the manga, at the time at least. And in this, we actually got to see which Sternritter defeated her, which was just kind of a cool little moment for me, at least. I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, so for the second half of the episode, Yamamoto, I really like what they did with those moments. Again, the lighting, and I guess not just the lighting, but the coloring was really well done on the flashback sequences for, him and his lieutenant. And the additions to the story were really well done, and I really enjoyed them. Again, even though they were brief, even though they were minor, it could have even, if you're wondering like what additions, Carrot, like it's, potentially even just minor, like seconds of battle, but it really worked for me. And I don't know, it just, the whole episode felt very, relaxed. It felt very tense, but also it took its time with telling the story. It's one of those episodes, the difference between 4 and 5 for me is that 5 feels like I'm watching a movie. It felt like I watched an entire film, almost like I watched 2 films, because part 1 and part 2 were so well done in episode 5. But with episode 4, it felt so rushed that I felt like I watched it in like a couple of minutes, if that makes sense. So I really loved this episode, and I'm happy that it took its time, and I'm happy that it gave this moment and this plot point the drama that it needed, in my opinion. Kenpachi. We saw Kenpachi, and I feel like he had a pretty good introduction, honestly. Again, for people who are just meeting the character, or for people who are returning to the character, I feel like this introduction of him killing 3 Sternritter after we already know that they're kind of a big deal, I thought that was really awesome. I thought they did a really good job at, reintroducing him. And I'm excited to see more of that character. And also, I liked that we got to see a little bit more of his fight with these Sternritters, because in the manga, it was kind of just a one-panel cutaway. So I thought all of that was really, 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 really cool. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this, but I probably will mention it a couple of more times. I really love that they are kind of revising tracks from the original soundtrack of the anime. I was really excited to hear certain songs. We've already heard a couple of songs that are kind of revised from the original soundtrack, but in this episode, we heard some more, or in these episodes we heard some more, and I was really excited about them, especially because I feel like maybe they're fantastic songs, but I feel like maybe they're some of the lesser known songs from the Bleach soundtrack catalog. So I was very, very excited about that, and I thought that was really cool. Speaking of music, I feel like I didn't sing the praises of the opening enough in the previous video, so I just wanted to say I really do love the opening. I just was disappointed that we didn't get the previous song from episode 1 moving forward, but I really do love the opening. I love the visuals for the opening. In fact, I think there are some minor spoilers in the visuals for the opening, like all good anime openings have. But yeah, I just wanted to say I really do like that song, and I think it's a great choice for the opening theme song for the show. Something else I didn't get to mention in the previous episodes, or the previous reviews for the episodes, is the post-episode poems. What a cool thing that they're doing. Again, one of the best parts of owning the manga is getting these poems that you can only get there, that you can't read week by week in Shonen Jump. So I was really excited to see that adapted. It's such a cool part of Bleach that is not really mentioned often, and that I think is so cool and unique. And it's one of those things that doesn't need to be done, but Kubo does it because it's just, he's an artist and he wants to do something cool. So I was very excited to see that in the post episodes. So yeah, I mean that's just something that's cool to me as a fan of the series for a long time. I thought that was really cool. In addition to that, in episode 5 specifically, we get a post-credit scene, which is really cool. I hope we get more of those. I personally really like post-credit scenes for anime. I know some people don't. I think that's the people who skip the ending theme song. But I really love them. I think that they're cool. There's something very dramatic about a post-credit scene, and especially for anime, that I think just feels so hype. So I was really excited to see it for episode 5. I was really taken off guard by it, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a trend moving forward. And to round out my thoughts, just to reiterate, episode 4 was disappointing to me because it felt really rushed, and a lot of it didn't just feel rushed, it felt a little too similar to the manga. And some of the best parts of this anime so far are that it's paced well when the show is at its best right now. It's paced well, and one of the other details I love about it is that it's making new additions to the story that it's adapting that are minor but really vital to making the show better and making the story better, in my opinion. The additions to this story that it's adapting in episode 5 are very minor, but I appreciate them so much, and I think it makes the story better. And episode 4 didn't have as many additions like that, and it felt very rushed, and that's something that I hope we don't see more of in the future. But so far, still enjoying the anime, absolutely loving it. I'm, again, just excited as a fan to have more Bleach to watch, and I can't wait to watch episode 6. So those are my thoughts on episode 4 and 5 of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching. If for some reason you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to my channel for more. As regular viewers know, I make a variety of content on my channel, and I'm always going to make the videos that I want to make. But if you see something you enjoy, make sure to let me know, and I'll try to prioritize that kind of content in the future. Over on my Twitch channel, we typically play superhero games like Marvel's Avengers, Gotham Knights, and Marvel Snap, in addition to the occasional horror game like Resident Evil. But during the month of December, we'll be celebrating the Carrotscraps Winter Games, which basically means that occasionally we'll be playing a video game that features snow, such as Spider-Man Miles Morales or the winter levels from a Mario game. So if any of that sounds interesting to you at all, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/carrotscraps. And all my other social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, are at carrotscraps as well. So I want to thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bleach. Let's really quickly see if I can pronounce these names. So the official pronunciation is Yuha-Va. I would never have been able to say this. Yuash. Yuha-Va is the main antagonist of the Bleach series. That's kind of a strong, introduction for him. You know what he is? You know how you say his name? He's the leader of the Quincy's. The modern leader of the Quincy's. We'll just stick with that. How about that? That'll solve all my problems